speak up and share what you're going through, and then find the right people that can support you. And there's so many roadblocks in like our journey to being better, but I do think there's like really incredible people out there that can help.
Welcome to the Spero Means Hope Podcast, where we take storytelling to the whole new level by sharing amazing patient stories, interview experts in the community, and share resources for clinicians and students. So today we have Mashal with us. Good afternoon, Mashal.
Hello, good afternoon.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing so great. Yeah, I missed you, Mercy, so it's like so nice to see you again.
Oh, it is so nice to see you. I love that. I love that we get to catch up. So, Mashal, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do for a living? What do you do for fun?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for this space and for inviting me to this podcast. I'm so excited that y'all are doing this. It's, I have so much admiration for Spero and a lot of respect for all the people there. But a little bit about myself. My name is Mashal Awais. I am an environmental scientist. I work at Bayou City Waterkeeper, which is a nonprofit organization in the Lower Galveston Bay watershed, which is where we live, the greater Houston area. And I work to protect clean water, which just basically means I look at a lot of data and I talk to a lot of community members that are being impacted by pollution, whether that's sewage or issues related to flooding and all that good stuff. So that's kind of like the work that I do, and trying to integrate and take science outside of its academic spaces into the community and really learn from community members as experts in their experiences of the environment. So that's a little bit about the work that I do, and I also am a musician, which is a thing that I like to do for fun as well. So a lot of my free time, if I ever get it these days, is trying to seek new music, find music, listen to music, enjoy experiencing and being around it. So that's what I do for fun, I think, and being outside too.
What instrument do you play?
I play this bamboo flute, which is from South Asia and Pakistani. So the instrument is like a folk instrument that we play a lot, but it's also used as like North Indian classical music. So it's called the bansuri, and yeah, that's the instrument that I play.
I love that. I love that. Do you sing as well?
I sing occasionally in this women's drum group, which is called Chanchegas Chicas Unidas, which is a native indigenous drum group in Houston that I was invited to a couple of years ago, that I stumbled upon during the Keystone XL Pipeline days. So that's like a really sacred space for me, where I get together with all these women that are, and we sing songs from our cultures.
I love that. I love that. Can you tell us a little bit about what first brought you to clinic?
Me personally, after giving birth to Niall, who is now 19 months this month, I went through a very difficult period of postpartum, which I didn't really recognize that was something that was kind of like unique in my situation. I thought this is like something that all women kind of go through. It wasn't until like the first couple of days had gone by and I was like still in so much pain that my mom intervened and was like, this isn't normal, you know? And honestly, I think that I went to my gynecologist as a follow-up, and they told me to get physical therapy. And that's when I reached out to Spero. And I met with you, I think, sometime in October of 20... Goodness, time is such a blur, but I think sometime in October or November of 2021. Yeah, 2021.
Yeah.
And I think I've been kind of like a regular since then. Feels like a part of family in some ways.
It's so weird when you said that he is 19 months, because the first day that I met you, you were 40 days postpartum. Like, it was like you had just reached the 40-day mark. So for your child to be like a whole 19 months, I'm like, oh my goodness, that's mind-blowing.
Yeah, so
Mind
much time has
blowing.
gone by.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I
So
was 40 days.
you
Yeah.
were 40 days. Yes, yes. So, like, going through postpartum, what were some of the symptoms that you feel comfortable sharing?
Um, so I had a very, very easy pregnancy for what I was expecting my pregnancy to be very, all these things people talk about during pregnancy. I didn't experience any pain or any too much discomfort. I think towards like the seventh, eighth month. Yeah, like the seventh month of my pregnancy, I was in LA dancing in my niece's wedding, and when I came back, and I think eighth month onwards, I was kind of like feeling a lot of pain in my like, uh, I don't know, like pubic pelvic area, and then I asked my gynecologist, and she told me to, I think, walk more or kind of stay more physical or something like that. Sorry, things are a little bit blurry because it was like a long time ago, but I think that at that moment, had I sought physical therapy, I feel like that would have been my first check of like maybe I underestimated how much pain I was in then, but I kind of started just like doing more, like going more on walks or taking more breaks from the chair or things like that. But I started experiencing some pain back then, but it wasn't excruciating or like life altering at that point. But then during labor, uh, they my gynecologist that I was really hopeful would be there for my delivery wasn't there, and there was residents that were administering sort of my labor, and it wasn't until like I think I felt like I had to be like, I need an OBGYN like in this room right now. The baby is gonna be delivered right now. Like, I need the baby. I need an OBGYN here. So I had no like actual relationship with the person that delivered the baby, and it was maybe there was like some stress there that I was sort of feeling, but I think during my labor, I started feeling a lot of pain and discomfort, and I kept saying, like, I can't feel my feet, I can't feel my legs, and that just stayed. So that was something I thought, yeah, I thought it was like that pain sort of stayed with me. And so that was one thing that I can share. And I think that was like the numbness in my feet sort of lingered from that point onwards. And my tailbone area, pelvic, whatever area, all of that region was in so much pain. But I remember just feeling like, oh, I'm, this is it. And I know everyone says that is what labor is like, but I really believe that was like this is it for me. Um, but I think fast forward, I think the pain just never went. All of the pain that I was experiencing in my pelvic region, pubic region, all of that pain just sort of stayed. And it wasn't until like, I think my mom was like my biggest advocate because she knew probably, she has three children. She's experienced it and had a whole life of witnessing women recover to where she was like, this isn't a normal. Like you need to go to Spero. I feel like maybe you're experiencing neuropathy or something like that. Because I would tell her like my symptoms of numbness, and she was like, she has neuropathy. So I feel like a lot of the conversations we were having were like, oh, okay, I think you need to go because I think you maybe have experienced some nerve damage or something. It could be neuropathy or something. So that's what brought me to physical therapy is like, I feel like I should be able to walk. I feel like I should be able to hold my baby and not be in pain. So I think that was the start of the let's go to Spero.
Had you gotten any like epidural during labor?
No, I took no epidural because I wanted to kind of be aware through the whole process and push
Mm-hmm.
and be really like I don't know. I didn't take any epidural. They just gave me Pitocin, and they said that they were going to administer the lowest dose of Pitocin. But that's it. I didn't take any painkillers. It wasn't until like after labor I took Tylenol for like 3 days because they were like, I started to experience after labor pains, which I didn't know was a thing, and that happens every time you breastfeed is like your body starts releasing something starts happening and you're experiencing a lot of the same exact pain as labor. So I was like, oh my gosh, I need stuff. I need painkillers. So I took painkillers for 3 days after.
Yes, I was going to ask you, like, so before delivery, where did you get your information? Um, like, like, how did you know what to expect postpartum? Like, did you have like regular OB visits, or like, do you feel like you had like a good idea of like what delivery was going to be like, or do you feel like you like people did not really prepare you for what was to come, or like the potential things that could happen?
I think part of it was filtered. Like I
Mm,
personally wasn't wanting to go on Google and do crazy searches because I would find just like so much content on the internet that it would make me anxious even more so. So I was kind of like avoiding like reading misinformation, just, and trying to stay level with like, okay, one day at a time through my pregnancy and just really trusting my OBGYN. I really love my OBGYN and she really did take care of me and so did all of her staff. So I think that was my source of truth and that's what I was going with. And then I have a lot of cousins in my family that I would talk to whenever I had questions. So I'm the youngest girl cousin in my family, so I would just like lean on a lot of them for anything and everything that I had. Any questions, I would just call one or two of them and just see what they would recommend, or like my mom's friends. So mostly just like talking to women in my family, and yeah, that was my source of truth. It wasn't I and in hindsight, I do think there's a lack of general literature now that I've been in this postpartum phase. I generally think there's like just like there's a gap, People start talking about taking care of the baby. Everyone focuses on the baby. There's not enough focus on women and women after birth or like what happens in like what they call the fourth trimester. I know like there's some moments and people in my family and cousins and friends that have been like have gone through postpartum depression or experienced like the mental or emotional aspects of it, but there's not enough. And even when I was experiencing all this pain, I couldn't find anything, even in like scientific literature, because I'm a scientist. I couldn't find any like easy, accessible research that could help me identify what this condition was, why I was in so much pain. Where is the literature? That's why what I would keep trying to find. Like, even when I spoke to you and you sort of told me like this is called pelvic girdle pain dysfunction, I was like, what? Nobody. And I would go online to find information. I wouldn't find any sort of like long term, like anything. I feel like there's a lot of gaps. And when I did go on Google, of course I went on Google. I couldn't find enough literature that was supportive, enough resources that were talking about like what women need to do, how to take care of themselves, their bodies, how do they continue being in their careers, like so many things. And everything, I think I was having to juggle so much, of course, in the initial days of just like motherhood and what all of that means. So there is just like so many things that I wish already existed. Even in the healthcare system, I wished that my OBGYN had talked to me about like beyond the birth plan, like what is your fourth trimester going to look like? And beyond just like have a check-in with me, like legally systems should require, and we can talk about that for like ever, I think, like system level changes that need to exist for women to have more check-ins at the healthcare system, to be able to recognize like no, everyone can't just like do Kegels and that's not enough, maybe there's more check-ins that need to happen in the initial postpartum phases, not just 1 6-week postpartum and then see you later, because I changed my
uh,
insurance and I couldn't go back to my same OBGYN, so I just never went back. um,
yeah, I agree 100%. I like how you called it a gap because I think that's exactly that. There's this kind of like gap in knowledge. And I do think that nowadays you see more and more like postpartum education and like pelvic floor therapy education, but I feel like I see it more on like social media. You know, I think I see a lot of like pelvic floor physical therapists putting like a lot of information, and so people are understanding more that Kegels is not appropriate for everybody. But like that gap is, like you said, like where is the scientific evidence? Where is the literature? Not everybody is on social media, so we should be able to reach people right where they are as they're meeting their healthcare providers, and like provide them with information that is like understandable enough, to where they don't have to like go through like mountains and valleys to like find an answer to their pain questions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I can share that I went to another physical therapist and I think I told you about that in January. But where I went, the physical therapist at that time did an evaluation of me, and I had an appointment right after with the OBGYN. They were in the same location, so I scheduled them both together. So I had the appointment with the physical therapist, and she kind of told me, like, hey, just do these Kegels, you know, whatever you're going through, why don't you just kind of like focus on your baby and really all these amazing things that are happening in your life. And um, that just made me really emotional, you know. Um, Sorry. So I stopped, you know. I think I stopped at that point when she told me, like, you should focus on all the good things that are happening and, you know, do these exercises and, um, do all this stuff to make yourself feel better, and then just kind of, um, I don't know if there's any point to you going and seeing your OBGYN right now. What is she going to prescribe you some painkillers? And that's probably it. And I was like, you're right, you know, that's probably all she's going to do is give me painkillers. And I don't really want to take painkillers. I want to think about all the good things that are happening in my life. So I think at that point onwards, I just stopped coming into Spero and just disappeared, right? Like I just stayed with the pain. And I don't even think I told anyone in my family about that too. I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And I just stayed with that for a long time. And it wasn't until I had an appointment with my PCP, which I just was like a random person that I found on Google. It was also a woman that I went to, and I had my annual exam. And she told me, wait, you should be able to feel your feet. What do you mean you can't feel your feet? And I was like, well, that's just a thing now that I have. And she's like, no, you need to go to a neurologist and you need to go back to therapy. And that was August of what, 2022, I think. And then I was like, okay, maybe I should. And then I set an appointment with the neurologist, and I think that was like, I think that so there's like that sort of, it is really literally who you interact with and the people in the healthcare system that will, and when you're so vulnerable, I think I've been reflecting on that so much more these past few months, is like the people that you interact with and in your moments of pain and vulnerability, and how they address your pain and discomfort and all these things that women are just generally supposed to sort of take it all, and we have this culture as well. And also, I'm South Asian, so we have a lot of other nuances in our culture that we just sort of are expected to kind of just keep going. So I think when she kind of like looked at me, I was like, no, you need to do that for yourself. You need to go see a neurologist. You need to go back to the physical therapist. And I was like, she's right, I should. And then I reached out to you again, and I started coming back. And then I started working with the neurologist too, to identify what's wrong. And I was like, yeah, I'm so dumb. Why am I not figuring out what's causing it? And I feel like I am very privileged. I live in Houston, Texas. I have the best medical facilities in the country, is what it's branded as, at my disposal. And I'm educated, I speak English, I have all these resources, I can find information. And yet I went through this moment of like, no, I need to just take it all. And so I really shudder when I think about people in other parts of the world, or like rural America, or women that don't have access to healthcare, don't have access to resources. Like, wow, what are we doing?
I'm I'm glad like you're where you are now to where like the pain is gone, and I'm glad that you had those like key encounters like your PCP saying like, hey, this is not normal. And then I remember when you came back being like, oh, okay, there's still pain, like let's explore internally, and then like you getting like internal work. I felt like that was like the step that was needed, you know.
Yeah.
How was your first like internal pelvic floor physical therapy appointment? Like was it like weird in any way, or were you like completely like, "Oh, okay, go ahead, you know?"
I feel like y'all prepped me good, you know, you told me pretty much what it was gonna be like. I was well prepared to expect it to be like more of like an OBGYN exam. Like
Mm-hmm.
and I think everything about that experience was like the internal physical therapist that I went to, that was your recommendation, was fantastic. Adrienne is amazing.
Yes.
Now on Instagram, I follow her.
Yes.
Like, oh my goodness,
At
I'm
Houston
gonna share
Pelvic
all this
PT.
content. So, yeah, now my feed is all like physical therapists, but which I'm so grateful for. But yeah, I think that Adrian was so amazing, made me feel so comfortable, and everything about you know, like working in synchrony with you, and just um it, like working around my work schedule, my childcare schedule, like everything, you know, just being so flexible, so understanding, so respectful, and yeah, I don't know. I feel like I owe you and Adrian so much, you know. There's not a day where I go on a walk and I don't think about y'all.
Masha, I feel like you did the work. Like it's like you're it's literally like us like standing there and saying like one more rep, but you're the one like actually like just doing the work, and like you're worked so hard, and so it makes me happy to know that you're like in this like place now.
But the thing
How
is, like,
Mhm.
I wouldn't have even known that there's this thing called internal physical therapy. And I talk
Yeah.
about that a lot now as like two people, two women, all the time, you know, that might be experiencing anything. And I'm like, you know, you could just, there's this whole thing, like, go seek internal physical therapy if that would help you. Because
Yeah.
I don't think, I mean, I never knew about it.
Yes. What are some ways you think that healthcare can better support women pre-pregnancy, while in pregnancy, and then postpartum? I know you mentioned like maybe having more than like a 6 weeks follow-up, but what are some other like ideas you think we can do better in healthcare at supporting women through that journey?
Well, a lot of things. I think system level, like we could have more, first off, we could have more maternity leave for women, you know, um, paid maternity leave, access to childcare. Those are just like basic needs. I don't think these are like things that need to be, and I never thought about them, you know. I remember um, being in one of my in my one of my previous jobs, there was a pregnant woman that spoke in a all town hall type of meeting, and she was pregnant, and all she said in the meeting was, "Is it possible for women that are pregnant to not have to walk across the parking lot? And can we park in, like, can we get parking that's close to the office building?" And this is Houston, Texas. It's very hot, and you know, um, the person that was like the, I guess the boss, laughed, you know, and was and sort of laughed and made a joke of it, and nobody said anything. And I mean, I was young at the time, so I didn't obviously say anything either. But goodness, like that is such a basic thing for someone to. I don't think that's a huge thing to ask. And now that I've experienced pregnancy and all of these other things, I think definitely like maternity leave, childcare support, supporting people and women to be able to go to the hospital, have these appointments, have physical therapy, be a part of a postpartum, and even pregnancy. Like, I feel like when you're pregnant, that's when you can prepare, you know, for all these things. Like, have education, mandatory education. This isn't optional for women. I don't think this needs to be an option. I think women need to be. I don't know why we don't talk about it more. I think just being able to normalize it is the other part of it. Like, just talk about what this could be, what this could be for you as an individual, and how to show up to support. And I think society needs to also kind of like step into those roles a little bit.
Yeah. Do you feel like this experience with like delivery and like postpartum has changed or affected in any way like your view on like having more children, or like do you feel like that's like yes, like what do you think that it's affected your view?
Yeah, and I can just share, I never wanted to have children. I think, I never wanted to there's women that always want to like find a partner, get married, and have children and be settled. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I was definitely like not wanting to do that for a long time of my life. And then there was like moments in my life, and then I met my partner, and I was like, no, this is like let's do this. Let's have a baby. Let's start a family, and you know, let's try this out. And now I'm like, if someone else wants to do it, someone else wants to have a baby for me, that's great. Not want to experience any of that again. I
Oh,
love my child. I love my family. I have, everything's thankfully also like amazing. Everyone's really been supportive. But yeah, I'm good.
okay. All right. Other than the physical aspect, how was your like postpartum journey like mentally?
Oh, a whole mess. You know, I think it was very challenging. Yeah. I couldn't hold my baby. That's the
Yeah.
whole thing. Like, how can you enjoy anything when every part of your body is in pain? And I couldn't lift a 6-pound baby and feed him or move him or change the diapers, which nobody wants to change diapers, but like being not able to do any of those like basic things, like grab a glass of water for myself, like move Niall from one part of the room to the other, like be on the floor with him when he's learning how to crawl, like enjoying experiencing like things with my baby. I didn't enjoy any of that. So I feel like I was like super helpless, super dependent, and also stressed and in pain. So the mental aspect was like also a real challenge. And I was obviously diagnosed and given medication, but I didn't want to take it because I was like, I don't really know how that's going to interact with me breastfeeding. And I know it's safe, but like, I don't really want to do that right now. I feel like I can just, the same thing, like, I can just power through this. That's been my sort of like, um, yeah, wanting to power through it all and it'll be fine. But I think it's so connected to my physical health. So like if you're not physically healthy and you're in pain, how can you how can you not how can you have a good attitude about the day? If I would share like how much pain I was in, I think that was always like downplayed. People would be like, "Oh yeah, that's like I have that too. Like I'm in pain too
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day with my feet." And I'm like, "I don't think you understand. Like I'm in I cannot feel my feet. I'm not talking about like normal postpartum stuff, which is also huge. I think that
Mm-hmm.
that part it took so long for me to understand that what I was experiencing was like outside of the ordinary realm of like postpartum, but then also when I would talk about it or feel like I should share like this is what my pain experience is or like this is what I'm going through, a lot of times people and women also would just like say like, "Oh yeah, that's what happens," or like a lot of times when we're listening, we're not actually like actively listening to the extent of what the person is going through. We sort of try to relate, and empathy is like that's one way to extend empathy, but also recognizing like maybe what the person is saying is like maybe they're downplaying also what they're saying and what they're experiencing may be way worse. And I think that that's
Mm.
that type of like fine tuning needs to happen, and something I'm so grateful for you to have like had that sort of like understanding and sense of um, to sort of be like, no, I think you should try like doing internal PT and going this route and like having all these like check-ins with me beyond just like that 1 hour session, you know? Like I really felt like I could share a lot more and I felt a lot more comfortable sharing with you, versus like going for a session and doing a couple of exercises and just leaving, you know? So I think
Like,
that was one thing. I was like, I don't think people understand what I'm saying. I'm just gonna stop talking about it, you know?
mm,
Yeah.
mm. What would you j- share, or like would you have any advice to like anyone that's listening that is like kind of like experience some like postpartum pain, or like experiencing things that they like deep down they feel like okay, something else is going on? Like any advice, or like what would you encourage people to do?
Yeah, I think it's like really important to be your own advocate, you know? I think especially for women, but really this could be for anyone, that you have to be your own advocate and you have to sort of speak up and share what you're going through and then find the right people that can support you. And I know that sounds really easy. Sometimes it could be a stroke of luck that you find the right person that kind of guides you in the right direction, but it takes a lot of like that type of like investigative, like who do you talk to, who's the right person to go to for this. And there's so many roadblocks in like our our journey to being better. um, but I do think there's like really incredible people out there that are um, that can help, you know. And hopefully if you're like your own advocate, you lift it up a lot more. Like if you're experiencing a pain, you go with your gut, you go with what you remember, you track what you're experiencing, you write it all down and you go and share that. And I think um, yeah, I don't think anyone needs to be in pain, and that really trusting yourself and that it will get better, you know. You just have to trust the process. You have to trust that there are people out there that are experts in this field, or there, if it's not in this city, it could be in a different place. Like now we have access to the internet, and finding the right people hopefully gets you to be in a pain-free life. But um, yeah, there were so many moments where I was like, this isn't working for me. Like, that's it. You know, this is just going to be me for the rest of my life. And I remember you telling me, like, no, it's not, you know? And yeah, I think I can see that now, but I didn't see it then.
I I'm super happy you're better now. And like, have you been able to go back to some of your hobbies?
Yeah.
Or I know you work also a lot. I don't know if you have had the time, but
Yeah, my work is my passion too, right? Like, I love my job. So just being
Aw.
able to sit and work without being like, ugh, gotta get up and not move around, you know? Just being able to sit and do work without that. But then also, like, yeah, I went on a 10-mile bike ride when Niall turned 18 months. I went on a 10-mile bike ride, just got on my bike and went. I used to be a cyclist, so I
Aw.
think that was huge. I don't know if I told you about it. I wanted to like tell you
No,
like
that's
I went on a
awesome.
10-mile bike ride. Which I
That's
didn't even
awesome.
track it or think about. I just got on my bike with my husband and we went on a bike ride. So just being able to be on my bike, just being able to be mobile without being afraid, taking trips again. I have like a couple of trips coming up that I'm really excited for in the summer. So getting back into playing music more. Um, yeah, sleep, you know,
That's
enjoying
important.
pain-free sleep night that I get. But yeah, yeah, I'm getting back into it, so I feel good.
Aw, I love that. I
Mm.
love that. Mashal, do you
Yeah.
have any like shout out you want to give to like people in your lives that like family members or like loved ones that have been like super supportive? Like if you had a thank you list, like who would you put on there?
Oh my goodness. I would put you, Adrian, and the folks at Spero, and then my
Aw.
parents, my mom for being my biggest advocate, and my husband Farid, Niall, Zain, Hamza, my brothers, my cousin Saliha, and my cousin Hiba, and a lot of my cousins. I have a lot of cousins. And my coworkers, Kristen, Ayana, Danielle, yeah, my coworkers. There was a moment where I was like, my coworker asked me, "How are you doing?" And I was like, "Not good." And then she just changed everything in my life or our work life to where I was able to take 2 weeks off, you know? So, yeah, I think my coworkers for sure, and a lot of my friends that I'm really grateful for.
That's amazing. And any parting words, like any things I haven't asked you about that you want to share?
Yeah, I feel like it's a good time. So I'm really happy that this podcast came at this time of the year and like this point in my life to where it's like it feels like an inspirational moment for me too. So I'm really grateful to have been on this postpartum experience of whatever this has been for me um, in the city and having all these resources and having like people like you to just reach out to whenever I need to, you know. And also this main staff at Spero. So everyone's been so great. I know I sound like I'm like
Yes.
a brand ambassador or something, but everyone's so amazing. Uh, so yeah, those are all my parting words. Come to Houston, Texas, and get your Spero Rehab. But no,
No.
you all really know what's up. So I think, and yeah, I think I undervalued physical therapy. If I was younger, I would go back and become a physical therapist and do this
Oh my
for the rest of my
goodness.
life.
Oh, it's the
It's
best
just,
profession. Thank you so much, Mashal.
thank you, Marcia. So nice talking to you.